which is why I loved it. Because the bottom line, first of all, Aaron Rodgers is good for this, at least twice a year. At least twice a year, he says something to remind you, damn it, upstairs, I ain't getting much help. He does it all the time, except this time, you know what I'm saying, he got his money before he was wondering whether he was going to get his money, even though we all knew he deserved his money. In the end, 63% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception, a quarterback rating of 97. You look at Aaron Rodgers right now, and you're just saying, damn, he's got limited help. But then again, there are some requisite weapons on the squad. Geronimo Allison is there. Devontae Adams is there. Obviously, Randall Cobb is there. These are guys that have been around for a long time. You know, age, attrition might be kicking in. He's not 100% healthy, and we all know that. But for me, when he called them out, it's reminding everybody we don't have what we need. In this particular instance, he's looking at McCarthy as well. Because McCarthy's been around. Let me tell you something. He does have a Super Bowl championship. He is to be respected. They went to 8 straight playoff appearances before they missed the playoffs last year. So it's not like McCarthy doesn't know what he's doing. But here's the flip side to it. We got to twist these questions around from time to time and ask it in this light. If I have a quarterback, the talent of Aaron Rodgers, is 1 Super Bowl appearance and 1 Super Bowl title enough for the length of time that McCarthy has been coaching? My answer would be hell no. And so when Aaron Rodgers say what he says, it reminds me that I need to continue to look at the coach and the GM and the president, football operations, before I look at Aaron Rodgers.
Here's another myth. Aaron Rodgers has never had any weapons. And what the Green Bay Packers have done and what they've given him and what they've supported him with has been nothing short of malpractice. That's also a myth. Let's bust these one at a time. I was listening to a show earlier today talking about how bad it is for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. What they've kept from him, what they've deprived Aaron Rodgers of, that he doesn't have the weapons that other quarterbacks have had. And I looked back and I'm like, come on. What's Jordy Nelson? For that matter, if you go back and look at Aaron Rodgers' career, Greg Jennings. His first couple of years, do you know that Aaron Rodgers had Driver, Jennings, and Nelson? And those guys were catching 70, 80 balls a year. He also had Ryan Grant, who for 2 seasons in a row ran for over 1,200 yards. Now, don't get me wrong, there were years when Rodgers didn't have much. Didn't have much support. But the vast majority of them, when it wasn't Jennings, it was Devontae Adams. It was always Jordy Nelson. It was Randall Cobb. He had Jermichael Finley, who was a great NFL tight end. And when they didn't have Jermichael Finley, they traded for Martellus Bennett. And when they didn't have Martellus Bennett, they traded for Jimmy Graham. And when they didn't have Ryan Grant, for that matter, by the way, they had Eddie Lacy, who also had 2 seasons of plus 1,200 yards. Now, I give you all of that, and I'm not telling you that Aaron Rodgers had the best weapons. I'm not telling you his offense ever resembled the Los Angeles Rams or the Kansas City Chiefs. But is that the standard? Is that what you look at? You look at Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, and go, man, they never gave Aaron Rodgers what he needed. Well, that applies to almost everybody. How many teams, how many quarterbacks get what Patrick Mahomes have? How many get what Jared Goff has? I think I just named all of them. Who else has these enviable weapons that Aaron Rodgers has been deprived of? Tom Brady has consistently had to cycle through undersized white receivers year in, year out. Yeah, he had Gronk.
Rodgers seemed to take a shot at coach Mike McCarthy, saying the Packers were, quote, terrible on offense, end quote, in their 22-0 win against the Bills, largely placing the blame on a bad game plan that didn't feature Devontae Adams enough and Jimmy Graham enough. Yesterday, Mike McCarthy said he feels good about the relationship, but added what Mike Florio called a passive-aggressive jab. Here's the quote. Aaron's given a lot of responsibility, and rightfully so. He's earned that at the line of scrimmage and during the preparation process, end quote. Bo, what is your read on all of that stuff in their relationship?
Now, this is funny because, like, Kyle Shanahan says this thing now that Jim Mora II used to say back in the day, which was overcome coaching, right? The idea that the coach might send you out there with something that's not a great idea, and if that happens, you got to be the one to overcome it, which is basically what Mike McCarthy said, because Aaron Rodgers is like, look, the game plan did not feature Devontae Adams as number one, and Mike McCarthy's like to change it if that's what you want to do. And that's a bit of a spat that I feel like they should not be having in front of us. They probably got the relationship that you have when you've been working with the same dude for as long as these dudes have been working together, which is 13 years.
Yes, and I think it's also worth pointing out that there is a difference between money, which Aaron Rodgers now has, and power. And I think for Aaron Rodgers, does he want to do the thing that Peyton Manning used to do? Does he want to have all of the controls at his fingertips? Because at the very least, Bo, I think Aaron Rodgers is probably looking around the league and seeing Sean McVay do magical things in LA. He's seeing Andy Reid do magical things in Kansas City, and he's probably thinking to himself, I am better than Jared Goff. I am better than Pat Mahomes. It would be nice to imagine what it could be like if I had the help that those guys are receiving.
Yeah, probably, right? But I also wonder if it's not even about looking at those other dudes or just looking around and being like, we won the Super Bowl in 2010. That was a long time ago. Like, the prime of Aaron Rodgers has not seen another trip to the Super Bowl, right? And there have been years in there where they've had Aaron Rodgers, relative to what the cap was, on very manageable sorts of contracts. And to be honest, he's got a head coach who calls plays, who is not a great coach. He is not a great offensive mind. I'm not saying he is bad, but he's not a guy that we look at as you say that. So I do wonder, like, at this point, he's got to be looking around at this like, how much longer am I going to be dealing with this? And I'm hobbling around here on one leg?
Right. He's hobbling around, and I think because he is getting up in age, he's probably thinking, I need to win another one of these things for me to feel real good about what I've done on this planet. I know he's a big picture guy. He's not just interested in football, but when it comes to the football, I think it will be held against him for reasons that we're now discussing are beyond his control, why he didn't win more.
Yeah, how much does he care? Because he is a better quarterback than Tom Brady, but he will never be seen as the champion.
Yep.
I do not think it's a coincidence that the Green Bay Packers, even though they did not have to, they had him under contract and they could have franchised him out until he was 38 years old, that they, in what is not altruism, this isn't a .org, but they were generous and loyal in ways that businesses that have people locked up do not have to be. They just paid Aaron Rodgers because he was worth it and not because they had him locked up, to keep him happy. And immediately after that, this is what you're getting. Now, he's been here for a while,
Right.
Not happy that they're not consulting him on offensive coordinator. He clearly, it seems to me from what I'm seeing, let him run the thing, man. Just be his aide. Just be his secretary. Just do what he wants. He's really good at this. Give him the power LeBron has because he is in his sport LeBron.
Let him put in the offense. Let him call the plays. Just Mike McCarthy.
Help him. Be a
Right.
secretary. Do not be the authoritarian who's after the game saying, I have good relationships, proper relationships with all of our players. Aaron and I, we have gone through a lot of years together, so I feel good about our relationship. And what I'm telling you is I don't know as I'm watching it. I suspect it, but I don't know as I'm watching it, that Aaron Rodgers is keeping Mike McCarthy gainfully employed as a head coach because every year Mike McCarthy's going to win 10 games if his quarterback doesn't get hurt. God forbid his quarterback gets hurt, because you're going to see what you saw last year, which is the Green Bay Packers and everyone who runs them becomes immediately irrelevant the moment he's carted off the field.
How far do you extend that out, though? If Aaron Rodgers goes to the general manager and says, hey, this coach, we can win more with a different coach.
Let him
I'll tell you who I want to hire.
Yes, I'd be good with it. Yes.
I think I'd be good with that, too.
He's just too good. He's too valuable. If you're gonna be in a salary cap sport, man, they just did the thing that no team does. They just gave him money when they didn't have to, because it was the right thing to do.
Let's go back to Wisconsin and talk about cheeseheads again. This time the Packers. In an unlikely disagreement, perhaps, Aaron Rodgers lit into the specifics of the Packers' offensive approach Sunday in a shutout victory of Buffalo. Rodgers said, quote, we were championship defensive level, non-playoff team offensive level today. We need to find ways to get our playmakers in position to get some opportunities, close quote. Mike McCarthy conceded as much and said, quote, when I closed my door last night and watched the game, I felt like we left a lot out there, close quote. Tony, Rodgers versus McCarthy, big deal, little deal, no deal.
It is a little deal if it's any deal, because Aaron Rodgers has won, because Mike McCarthy has said that you're right at this point. Look, you can go out in an hour and get somebody to coach that team. You can't go out and find another Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers this is not true about most. There's just a small group of football players who are more important than anybody else on a franchise. Aaron Rodgers is that guy. He is that guy. And by the way, he's right. In this particular case, he's right. And Mike McCarthy's been with him a long time and was very wise to say, you know what? Because Mike McCarthy's an offensive coordinator. That's how he started. He said, we didn't do what we're supposed to do. Little deal.
This reminds me of a phrase that you and I are very familiar with because of a boss we once worked for and the way he made his operation run. creative tension. Okay? Not only
Benjamin
is
Crowe
creative
and Shane
tension,
Bradley.
that's right. Not only is creative tension not bad, it's required for teams that actually go in, mix it up, exchange ideas, get better, and then win. Aaron Rodgers knows he needed to say it. He needed to say it publicly, and Mike McCarthy needed to listen. And now you've had that happen. I expect the Packers to be better off for this.
Aaron Rodgers is 34 now. He's
Yeah.
got a contract that takes him till he's 39. He's the most valuable piece of property in the NFL. Mike McCarthy knows that one of the reasons he has coached there for now in his 13th year, much of that is Aaron Rodgers and his talent. So if they don't get along, you don't want Belichick.
But a little
Brady
tension
now.
is good. A little tension. This kind of
Little
tension is
tension.
good. By the way, is Patrick Mahomes the heir apparent?
He looks great. We've said that.